What is going on, you guys? It's Forerunner, and I'm back with an NHL 15 commentary for you. And today we're going to be talking about the 2014-2015 NHL season predictions and my personal predictions of what I think is going to happen this season and the results of the regular season. So we're going to start off with the Pacific Division, and I'm just going to go from the 7th team down to the best team I think is going to be on the top of the division at the end of the regular season. So let's just get started. So the first team, the last place in the Pacific Division, I think is going to be the Arizona Coyotes, the newly named Arizona Coyotes. Now, the reason I think they're going to be in the last spot is because I don't think they have enough to compete with the rest of the division. I mean, they have good offensive players like Bodker, Doan, and Hansel, and they have some pretty good defensive players like Yandel and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, with a really good goalie in Mike Smith. But I really don't think their offensive power really has enough to compete with the good goalies and the better offenses in the division. I think the other teams in the division have way more firepower to score more goals and to win more games than the Coyotes. So they're all right, but I don't think they have what it takes to play in this division this season. So the next team in the 6th spot is the Calgary Flames. Now, I mean, it's pretty easy to see that they're in a rebuilding stage, but they do have good offensive players with the new rookie, or not rookie, last year, Sean Monahan, very talented player, also with Glenn Cross and Yuri Hudler. And they also added Brendan Bullock from the Blackhawks, very for power, for more grit on the team. And they have a really good, strong defensive core with Giordano, probably one of my favorite defensemen in the league. Also with Weidman, and you also have Smeed and Derek England. But their biggest addition they added was Hiller and Net, which I think this is why I put them above the Arizona Coyotes this year, is because Hiller gives them more opportunity to win. And me being a Ducks fan, I really think that he will add more wins to their games this season. But I mean, Hiller, I have to admit, is pretty inconsistent. He'll be playing lights out for a couple games, and then the next couple he will drop. So he's very inconsistent, but he will add more wins for this Flames team. So that's the reason why I put them above the Arizona Coyotes. And the next team in the 5th spot is the Edmonton Oilers. And I was actually thinking about putting them higher on the list because they, I feel, are going to be one of those powerhouse teams. Not this season, but in a couple of seasons, they're going to be in the playoffs. I'm calling it right now because they have such a crazy offensive squad. They have Taylor Hall, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Eberle, Purcell, Yakupov. Those are just to name a few, and they are all, Hall, Hopkins, and Yakupov, 3 first-round picks, and Eberle and Purcell are not bad players as well. So they're going to be really, really strong offensively. It's just a matter of when they're going to click, when those line combinations are going to click, and they're going to actually start scoring and winning games for their team. They have a decent defense with Ferentz, Schultz, and Petrie. Not the strongest, but it's decent. But they also acquired Victor Foss from the Ducks, and then they have Ben Scrivenge, which I think is a pretty good goalie tandem. Foss proved himself pretty well in Anaheim, so I think their goalie situation is alright. I think their biggest weakness is their defense, so as long as the defense can hold up, I feel that they will do alright this season. But moving on to the ranked number 4 team, I believe it is going to be the San Jose Sharks. A lot of people think I would rate them higher on this list, but there's a lot of questions surrounding this Sharks team. Boyle is gone, and Burns is back on defense. Your offense is pretty good. You have Thornton and Marlowe, but they're getting pretty old. They're both 35 now. Can they still produce the strong numbers when they were younger? I mean, and can Pavelski have a strong season like last year? I mean, there's a lot of questions around this team. And Hertl was amazing last year until he got hurt, but will he be the same way he was last year before he got hurt? I mean, there's just so many questions surrounding this team. The outcome for the Sharks team is very up in the air this season, and I personally think it was a bad move to put Burns back on defense. I think Burns was a very strong offensive threat for them last year. He played very well for them. And I mean, you are a little shorthanded with Boyle gone, but I do think Burns belongs up in that offensive line with the forwards. So for just that reason alone, that there's so many questions surrounding this team, I put them in the 4th spot in the Pacific Division. And I don't know, like maybe Thornton and Marlowe can keep on producing those numbers, but I mean they are getting older. It's just a natural progression of things. We'll see how things go this season. So in the 3rd spot, I have the Vancouver Canucks. Now, people would have thought I would switch these two, but I really do think the Vancouver Canucks are going to make the playoffs this year because they made a lot of good changes for their team. They don't have Luongo anymore. They don't have Kessler. They added Ryan Miller, which is a great goalie. Nick Bonino from the Anaheim Ducks, which will be a solid second-line center for them. They also added Verbata and Spiza on the back end for defense. Very good additions for the team that fits and molds their team well. You have a strong offense with Sedins and Burrows. Also, like I said, with a second-line center with Bonino. Good defense with Bieksa, Edler, Hamuse, Tanev, and Spiza. And Miller really good in the back of the net with Eddie Lack backing him up. So I think Vancouver will surprise a lot of fans this year, but the Sedins have to produce. Like I really think if they are going to hold this number 3 spot and they get in the playoffs, the Sedins have to produce good numbers this season. But I really like what they did with their team, and it looks like it's going to be mulling out well, so that's why I put them in the 3rd spot. Now, for number 2, I have the Los Angeles Kings. Now, a lot of people thought this would be a shoo-in for number 1, but I don't know. I don't think they're a solid team. I think they're probably one of the best balanced all-around teams in the league. They have a strong center core with Kopitar, Stoll, Carter, and Richards. Very strong center core, along with great goal-producing wings like Gabrick, Williams, and Toffoli. And you have grit with Brown and Cliffords. And their defense is strong with, obviously, Doughty, Voinov, Martinez, and so on and so forth, with Quick obviously being one of the best goalies in the league. But can the Stanley Cup champs pull off another strong season like last season? I mean, it's just I don't know if they can do it again. They're super strong and very a balanced team, but the past couple seasons they haven't had crazy strong regular seasons, so I don't know if they will be able to be at the top like they have the past couple. Well, they haven't been at the top; they've been lower in the division, and then just would come back and be able, and with the last couple games, and be able to pull out into the playoffs. So the Kings are a very strong playoff team. They're not a great regular season team. They're solid, but they're not the best. And that comes down to my number 1 pick, who I think is going to be at the top of the division, Pacific Division, at the end of the regular season. And maybe people will call this bias, but I just think it's going to really happen, is my Anaheim Ducks. I really think they will pull out another 3-time in a row best in the Pacific Division. They lost Bonino and Spiza to add Kessler, but that was the biggest thing that they needed. They needed a strong second-line center. That was the biggest problem for the Ducks, I think, last year. They had Getzlov, and their other centers past that, besides Bonino, were pretty lackluster. We had Koivu, but he's retired. He was getting old and didn't produce as much. And so that was the biggest thing they needed. They needed a strong second-line center to back Getzlov up, and they got that with Kessler. I think he was a great addition to the team. Like, I do hate to lose Bonino, but I mean, Kessler is a bigger body and has more experience, so I really think that was a good addition by them. They also added Nate Thompson for center depth, so I really think they answered the question for the center depth so they can compete with teams like the Kings and the Sharks and the Canucks, because they have this more center depth role. They also added the all-star Heatley. I don't know how he's going to play in the team. They might try him out on the front line with Getzlov and Perry. Who knows? Offensively, the Ducks look crazy good. They have Getzlov, Perry, Kessler, Cogliano, Heatley, Palmieri, Schiffelberg, and Edom. Very, very strong offensive core. And their defense is super strong as well, with Fowler and Lovejoy, probably one of the best defensive pairings last year. They really held us to good games last year. Not the best in the league, mind you, but they were very, very strong when we needed them. Hampus Lindholm and Franchon Boschman also very, very good deep pairing together. And you also have Sammy Vaughn to help on the power play with that big shot. And we also added Clayton Stoner from the Minnesota Wild, which is a pretty good pickup for defensive depth as well. And this is where I think is huge. We have a strong goalie tandem. We got rid of Hiller, and we have Anderson and Gibson, both qualified goalies. Gibson only played a couple games last year in the playoffs. We brought him up, but he proved himself very well. Besides the last game, it was just an off game, but he had played 2 or 3 games before, and he shut the Kings out. Like, he was crazy, crazy good. You can tell there's going to be a bright future for this kid. And then Anderson, very reliable goalie as well. So if one goalie is not working it and is having a slump, then you can just put another goalie in. And I think this goalie tandem is a very strong team that can take the Ducks to the next level. And like I said, the biggest question for the Ducks is will their goaltending hold up? I hope it does. I really do think it will. And with the center position behind Getzlaf being answered, I really think they have what it takes to take on the rest of the Pacific Division and take that top spot again. I don't know what it is to say about the playoffs though, because they've won the Pacific Division the last 2 years in a row, but the playoffs, they can't really get out of the first or second round. But that's the difference between the Ducks and the Kings. The Kings are a way better playoff team than the Ducks, and the Ducks are a way better regular season team than the Kings. But like I said, that's the reason why I put the Ducks ahead of the Kings, is because the Ducks are a way better regular season team, and they can put up more consistent wins than the Kings can. So that's my list, guys. And I know we could probably get a lot of hate from putting the Kings off the front spot and just calling it bias. I mean, you can call it a little bit of bias, but as I said, this is my prediction. What are your guys' predictions? That's why I put this up here. I want to know what your guys' predictions are, so let me know in the comments below what you think the Pacific Division prediction is going to be for at the end of the regular season. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be posting the Central Division next in the next couple days, so look out for that. And I hope you enjoyed my prediction, and I will see you guys in the next one. Alright, later guys.